Just when you thought things couldn't get worse for Prince Harry. This is a man with no job, no serious income stream, no relevance, no media projects in his name, no relationship with his family or country of birth, and Sentebale, the organisation that he co-founded in his mother's memory, is now a smoking ruin of a charity and a public relations dumpster fire. But it seems that things are going to get worse, with the shocking news that the head of the Duke's eco-travel firm Travelist is stepping down in what has proven to be a mass exodus of staff members under the leadership of the Duke. Now, I use the term leadership very loosely, but we have an even more shocking revelation, courtesy of the Daily Mail's excellent diary editor, Richard Eden, whose royal contacts are second to none. And he's hearing that Prince Harry may well suffer the ultimate humiliation and be dumped as patron and face and frontman of the Invictus Games. Now, the Invictus Games is Harry's signature project, and it's the only project that gives this guy any currency whatsoever. He now faces the axe from his own organisation. Now, Richard Eden reports huge discontent within the Invictus Games Foundation and Harry's visibility within the charity. They don't want Harry to be the face of Invictus. Why? Because he's a misery guts. He's the world's least happy millionaire. He has politicised the event by making barbed remarks, subtly talking about the President of the United States. You don't have to love or hate Donald Trump, but the face of a charity for injured servicemen and women should not be political. But of course, Harry has made it all about him. And of course, Harry is a toxic brand. And the folks at Invictus are worried that that's rubbing off on them. A concern also shared by the chairman of Sentebale, the wonderful Sophie Chandauka. So a source close to the Invictus Games told Richard Eden of the Daily Mail, and I quote, "The Duke has become an increasingly divisive figure, particularly in the armed forces, and that's not good for Invictus. We're all about bringing people together and inspiring those who have suffered hardship. Now Invictus is firmly established. It might be better if the Duke took a step back." Now, this is a devastating critique of the Duke. And let's not forget that the Duke annoyed a lot of people, first of all, by exaggerating his military prowess and talking about his tours of Afghanistan, both of which were very short and a ring of steel protected the king. He creates the impression that he was this helicopter pilot taking out everyone left, right, and centre. He was a co-pilot in helicopters and, as I say, protected as the grandson of the then great Queen Elizabeth II. Yes, he served in the military, but this guy is not going to have a movie made about his life like Full Metal Jacket or Platoon or any of those rather impressive war movies. It ain't going to happen. And the other reason why Harry has irritated the armed forces is the book Spare, in which he boasted about, in inverted commas, taking out several Taliban figures. Now, it is well known in military circles that you do not boast about taking out the enemy. It's still human lives. It's indiscreet and particularly inappropriate for such a key member of the royal family. But he puts it in the book because there was so little material for Spare. Most of it involved accusing the royal family of horrible things and saying his brother was evil and his stepmother was wicked and his father was a terrible, terrible father. But apart from the pity party in regard to Harry, there wasn't much else to put in the book. So he decided that he would boast about his former drug use, which of course we'll come to in another show because that is a story in itself. Although I will pick up on it later in regard to his mother-in-law, Doria, and some of your comments about where is Doria, and that photograph from Meghan's tribute on Instagram to Mother Doria, which many of you argue is an old photo from 2016 or 2017. Where is Doria? Well, we'll come to that in just a moment. But the bottom line is that the military were not happy that Harry was boasting about taking out Taliban. The reason why is because it placed a target on the back of anybody that served with Harry in those tours of duty. It also placed a target on the back of current serving soldiers who have obviously, potentially been enraged by these remarks in Spare. And it's placed a a quite serious threat to all members of the royal family, because this guy, who is one of the key figures of the royal family, boasting about killing Taliban fighters. You don't do it. It is not the done thing in military circles. But why did Harry do it? Money, money, money. That's all it is. That's what motivates this guy. Money, position, influence, and power. Right? And it's an ego fest with Harry. I'll be honest, I give Meghan a lot of criticism on this show because I consider her to be a thin-skinned, pathological narcissist. I'm not going to sit on the fence when it comes to Meghan Markle, but I think that Harry is just as bad. He might be worse because he pretends to be this lovely, reasonable guy. But he writes about killing Taliban in his book, which is, as I say, against royal and military protocol and threatens the safety of serving officers. So they weren't happy about that, and yet he is the face of Invictus. Now, Invictus is about rehabilitating people that have been injured while serving in the armed forces and demonstrating what can be achieved with rehab, with operations, with medical treatment, with sports psychology. And some of these folks who have lost limbs go on to compete at the highest level in the Invictus Games. It is a wonderful thing. But Harry's self-pity, his indulgence, and his victim mentality goes completely against the values of Invictus, because Harry is just poor me, and my terrible life living in a mansion with 16 bathrooms. Get over yourself, Harry, because there are people in Invictus whose lives and bodies quite literally have been torn apart, and yet you're the one feeling sorry for yourself. A multi-millionaire aristocrat born with a silver spoon in his mouth, whose only great skill is that he won the womb lottery, with his mother being the late Princess Diana and his father, who is now King Charles, King of the United Kingdom and leader of Britain and the Commonwealth, and a great man. So I completely understand why the armed forces are thinking twice about Harry, and I totally understand why that's a problem for Invictus, which is a military charity. So those quotes, right, and there are more to come. But let's just have a look at this again. The Duke has become an increasingly divisive figure. Too right he has. He is so divisive. This is a guy that accused his own family of racism, right? Which is, I'm going to spell out the word. It's such a disgusting word. I'm not just going to throw it around like that. Which then he rode back on and said, oh no, I was talking about unconscious bias. What a wimp. And what a terrible, terrible coward. But the military, they don't want to see the royal family and the monarchy attacked. Prince Philip, the late great Prince Philip, was a military hero. Elizabeth II, Queen Elizabeth, was a military figurehead while serving on the throne for 7 decades, including plenty of military combat, including our victory in the Falklands War, thanks to the heroic and bold political leadership of Margaret Hilda Thatcher, who knew her onions and was almost as fearsome and impressive as Queen Elizabeth, if you ask me. A truly heroic lady. She made mistakes, don't they all? But my goodness, wouldn't we pay for leadership like that in the United Kingdom now? Don't you think Margaret Thatcher could pull this country up by its bootstraps and reset the whole project exactly like she did in 1979, when Britain was a sick man of Europe, when the unions ran the country, and when we were going to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, with our begging bowl, asking for cash just to keep the lights on. That was in the 70s. This is Britain, by the way, a country that once dominated and owned a quarter of the globe. Going to the International Monetary Fund, a bunch of bureaucrats on the continent, and asking for cash. How humiliating. Well, we're back there now, frankly. We're teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. We could do with some great leadership. And that's what Invictus don't have with Harry. They don't have leadership, and here is why. Are you sick of biased news? Well, so am I. And that's why every morning, with my big cup of decaf in my Father's Day mug that I actually bought for myself, I read Ground News. It shows how stories are covered differently by the left, the right and the centre. Take this one, for example, President Donald Trump's tariff crusade. Some outlets say that he's mad and is wrecking the economy. Others say that he's standing up for American jobs and will triumph. Well, Ground News shows both sides and lets you decide, because it turns out you've got a brain! Who knew? So try Ground News. Go to ground.news/Dolan or click the link below. You will get a 40% off discount from the Vantage plan. 40% off for the plan that I use for unlimited access. It is a game-changing way to consume the news. And more importantly, it will make you sound very clever at dinner parties. Ground News is subscriber funded. No billionaire overlords pulling the strings. Just the unvarnished truth from every angle. What's not to like? That is ground.news/Dolan. I'll drink to that. An organisation cannot achieve its goals if the person at the front of it, the face of it, the CEO, the chairman, the figurehead, the emblem, is a, and I quote, divisive figure. That's what this Invictus insider has said. The Duke has become an increasingly divisive figure, attacking the royal family, attacking Britain. Now, Invictus is very much there to celebrate British armed forces. How do you think those injured British servicemen and women feel about the guy that's the face of the charity attacking the country for which they fought and to which they risked their lives? And he, who's barely lifted a finger militarily, apart from worn his khakis and, pretended to fly a helicopter, right? That is not the same thing as what these folks have put themselves through. They've lost their limbs. Harry's not lost nothing. He's only lost his dignity because of his actions over the last few years. But what are the armed forces about? About discipline, about community, about loyalty to the king or queen, about loyalty to the country. None of those things have been demonstrated by Harry, which is why it's absolutely not a surprise that Invictus want him out. And I think he should go. I've got to say that you, the viewers of the Mark Dolan Show, are very wise, because you've been hinting that his position at Invictus is already quite shaky. A few weeks ago, you were telling me in the comments that you think that Invictus will be next. That was after Sentebale, which we'll come to. So this person, this insider, told Richard Eden, the rock star Mail diary editor, this person said that we're all about bringing people together and inspiring those who have suffered hardship. Now Invictus is firmly established. It might be better if the Duke took a step back. I mean, that is devastating. It'll be such a huge blow to Harry's ego, because Harry's ego dominates everything. Don't forget, it was his ego that meant he couldn't bear to be the spare. He couldn't bear to be the spare. He couldn't bear to be the spare. You couldn't bear to be the spare. You got you couldn't bear to be the spare. Ooh. Right? What a crybaby. Imagine throwing your toys out of the pram because you're not going to be king, your brother is. Being the spare is by some distance the best gig. Ask Princess Margaret, who had a whale of a time smoking and drinking Cinzano. Do you remember Cinzano, that lovely 1970s liquor? Advertised, I think, by the hilarious Joan Collins and Leonard Rossiter in those brilliant TV ads. Love Joan Collins. Joan Collins might be, I think she's in her 90s now. She looks sensational. We love Joan Collins. How old is Joan Collins? I used to love watching her in Dynasty. Joan Collins' age. Let's have a look. 92. How is that possible? I love that woman, an English Rose. Goodbye, England's rose, though I never knew you at all. You had the grace to hold yourself while those around you call. Right. So this person wants Harry out of Invictus, and it's completely understandable. Now, the timing is pretty sensitive because the next games are due to be held in Birmingham in 2027. That means that Harry could be out by then, because let's be honest, they say a week is a long time in politics. That is a year and a half from now. My maths. Well, it isn't actually. It's 2 years from now, because it's going to be the summer of 2027, and we're just at the tail end of summer 25. So it's 2 years from now. When the competition was launched in 2014, Harry's father, King Charles, attended, and Queen Camilla, of course, she's then just his stepmother and Charles's wife. His brother, Prince William, were there at the opening ceremony at London's Copper Box Arena. Back then, Invictus was part of the Royal Foundation, run jointly by William, Catherine, and Harry. But given Harry's estrangement from the family and his repeated attacks in Spare and in the Oprah interview, it seems doubtful that any royals would want to be seen beside him in Birmingham. So Harry doesn't even have pulling power now. Not only is he toxic and divisive, but if Harry goes to Invictus, you can bet your bottom dollar that Charles won't be there, Camilla won't be there, and William certainly won't be there. Now, stories have circulated that invitations will be sent to senior royals for the 2027 event. Go whistle, Harry. It ain't gonna happen, as the New Yorkers say. Forget about it. Forget about it. And here's the thing. Harry may not even be there because he's damaging Invictus. How many millions in fundraising has Invictus lost because Harry's the face of it? They've lost a fortune because you don't want to invest in an organization, the face of which hates Britain and hates the monarchy. So if you're in any way patriotic, you won't be giving your money to Invictus. I can't lie. I'm going to just be honest with you now. I always say it like it is, and I lay it out. I couldn't give money to Invictus as long as Harry is the face of it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't support anything that platforms a man that's done such damage to a country I love, the United Kingdom. That's the River Thames behind me. I might go for a swim later. It's rather toasty today in central London. So the Invictus source goes on to say, it is worrying that such a worthy event seems to be used for public relations purposes. Now, that's exactly what Dr. Sophie Chandauka said. Do you remember, by the way, Harry and his people wouldn't refer to the Sentebale chief as Dr. Chandauka. They called her Ms. Chandauka, right? Incredibly patronizing, everyday sexism. Well, we call her, on this show, we call her, what do we call her? We call her Dr. the Duchess Sophie Chandauka. Of course we do, because she's proper royalty compared to Harry. Why? Because she stood up to that guy, she faced him down, and she won control at Sentebale, and she won the PR war. But that's exactly what she said. This insider has told Big Richard Eden, it's worrying that such a worthy event seems to be used for public relations purposes. And it is. Invictus is just Harry's public relations vehicle. And it's all he's got. He's got nothing else. Harry has nothing else. And it will come to Travelist, his eco company, in a second, which is falling apart at the seams. But it's an ego trip for him. And we know that Harry is so ego-driven. A very senior royal insider told me privately and in confidence that the reason why Harry sued the British government for armed royal security in London is not because he's afraid of his safety. Of course not. This is a guy that went to Ukraine, which is currently at war. And he's been to China, which is a dangerous totalitarian dictatorship. He's been to Mexico. He's been to Colombia. He's been to Botswana, Lesotho. All lovely places, but all, with considerable peril. But he's been there quite happily. Nigeria, another one where there's a lot of gang violence. So that's Harry. But this insider told me the reason he sued the British government for royal security, therefore, is not safety, but ego. And the idea that when he gets to Britain, he's being followed around by an entourage of armed cops. It's a flex. It makes him feel good. He thinks he deserves it. But really what he deserves is he deserves a slap on the wrist. He deserves a kick up the backside is what he deserves. Metaphorically, not literally. We don't advocate anything of that nature on the Mark Dolan show. But metaphorically, he deserves, do you know what he needs? A clip round the ear. That would do it. And I've had a clip around my ear once or twice. And Mrs. Dolan, I still get them. And rightly so. Because, if you're out of control and if you're out of order, then those around you should speak truth to power and say, hey, you crossed the line there. No one does that with Harry, but he hated it when he was denied that royal security. And he is going to absolutely hate it if he's sidelined by Invictus. But I don't think Invictus has a long-term future with him at the helm. I don't know if you remember that terrible opening speech he made in Canada, the last Invictus, and he was talking about divisiveness in the world and messaging, and he was basically, he was making an overtly political speech. And the other problem with it is it was just a miserable, depressed speech from the world's least happy millionaire. It was a gloom fest. It was all about how terrible the world is. There was no smiling, there was no cheering, there was no celebration. And that's what Invictus is. Invictus is about reinvention, and it's about redemption. And it's about making a comeback, rebuilding your life and your body. And you've lost limbs, or you've got PTSD, you've got mental health issues after serving on the front line, and you're back now and you're in a wheelchair, or you have some other technology which is helping you get through every day, and you're going to participate as an athlete at the highest level. So Invictus is a fabulous charity. I really want to get behind it. My official charity is actually Sentebale, because they're the ones who took Harry down. They took him down to Chinatown. You see, Sentebale is not toxic anymore because Harry's not there. So they got my support. They are the unofficial charity of the Mark Dolan show. So the royal family won't attend, and lots of other dignitaries will not be there, because also Harry's stock is so low, just like Meghan, my husband. The two of them. We know Meghan's, season 2 of We'd Love Meghan. No stars. Only the proven internet troll and bully Chrissy Teigen and someone with a podcast called Jay Shetty. Okay, fine. I mean, stop the press. There's no pulling power. Elton and David, they've rejected Harry and Meghan. The Obamas are gone. The Clooneys, Gwyneth Paltrow, they've run for the hills, and rightly so. And now Invictus are running for the hills too. So let's just have a look at this, right? Senior members of the royal family would want to attend. It goes without saying that they support the forces to the hilt, but it would be unfortunate if they felt unable to attend because of Harry's presence. Well, of course, they wouldn't go. But if it wasn't Harry's gig anymore, it's likely Charles would go. And Camilla, it's likely William would go. Do you know what I would do? I know he's got a lot on his plate. I would give Invictus to William. Give it to William. Give him the gig. And what a slap in the face that would be for Harry, who'd be even more miserable. Oh, no. I was the spare of the royal family, and now I'm the spare of Invictus. Humpy dumpy dumpy dump. My terrible life. Another royal insider was more blunt about Harry and told the Daily Mail, if Harry were to resign as patron of Invictus, I'm sure they would have no trouble finding a new royal patron. Even Prince Andrew would be better. I'm not even joking. I actually think Andrew would be better now. That's how crazy things have got. Oh yeah, I'll look after Invictus. Oh yeah, man. Oh, definitely happy to do that. Are there lots of lovely ladies there? Oh, as long as they're very lovely, luscious ladies, and I'll be there. I'll be there with bells on. Can't wait. Prince Andrew, Randy Eddie, I'll be there. If there's girls there, I'll do it. And injured girls, even better, sort of veterans, lovely. I'll fix them up. I'll repair their mental distress. I'm Prince Andrew. Okay, I exaggerate. I think Prince Andrew is a hard sell, PR-wise, for Invictus. He's an idiot. He's an absolute prize numpty. But you know what? Here's the funny thing. He's never said anything against his own country or his own family, has he? So adding to the unease, one of Harry's closest allies has quietly stepped aside from the organisation. J.J. Chalmers, the former Royal Marine turned broadcaster, won gold at the inaugural Invictus Games, and he stood down as a trustee after just 2 years. Chalmers, who suffered life-changing injuries in Afghanistan when 2 comrades were killed in a roadside blast, he insisted he would still support the Games in an ambassadorial role. But why did he step away? Why is J.J. Chalmers of the opinion that Invictus is not for him? Is it Harry? Of course it's Harry. You bet your bottom dollar. Invictus insiders are desperate to avoid a repeat of the turmoil at Sentebale, according to Eden. And he's so right. That's what they've seen. They've seen the reverse Midas touch that Harry has. Everything he touches turns to the brown stuff. And we know about the battle with Duchess Dr. Sophie Chandauka, who said, and she said, and I quote, that her charity, Sentebale, and it is her charity now, saw a drop in donations because of Harry's toxic brand. She went further, claiming the organization had endured poor governance, weak executive management, abuse of power, bullying, harassment, misogyny, misogynoir, which is the worst kind of racism, all under Harry and his allies who also resigned. Now, there was an inquiry and Harry was found not to be guilty of bullying or misogynoir, but they absolutely attacked the way that Harry made the soap opera within Sentebale such a public discussion. And the fact is that Harry has lost control of Sentebale, and Duchess Dr. Sophie Chandauka is still there, tells you everything you need to know. Chandauka said that controversies around the Duke since his relocation to America had made it harder to bring in donors and staff. She said, when you start to interview people, they're asking questions about, well, these mixed messages around the patron. And that's exactly the problem that Invictus has got, because Harry is Invictus and Invictus is Harry. And he gets a lot of praise for Invictus, okay? And that's fine, because it is a good cause. And I like Invictus hugely. And I've got unlimited admiration for those who participate. And I've got unlimited thanks and complete high regard for those who serve on the front line, fighting for the freedom that we all enjoy on a daily basis, right? We're not worthy. Military folk are not worthy. I am nothing compared to a soldier. Nothing. Here I am as a broadcaster with a very privileged job, and I don't have to risk life and limb on a daily basis. And I have to say goodbye to my wife and my kids, and I may not come back. Right? That's what every person serving in the military has to deal with. So that's why I hold them in the highest regard, and why they should have a patron that's a bit more disciplined, a bit more loyal, and a bit better of a role model than Prince Harry. And I think the perfect role model would be William. William would be absolutely perfect for Invictus. I would consider giving it to Edward as well, although I find him a bit of a wet blanket. I find him to be I think he's had a personality bypass, I've got to say. But he's a nice guy, nice but dim, I think. Edward. He's all right, though. I mean, he's not never damaged his own family, has he? And he's married to Sophie, who's a delight. She's a delight. But I'd give it to, I'd be very tempted to give it to William. And what a slap in the face that would be. It would be delicious, wouldn't it? Also, so Sentebale and Sophie Chandauka, right? And I've no doubt this is what's happened with Invictus, right? Invictus is there for Harry, and anything that protects Harry is actually protecting Meghan. So Invictus isn't really about Harry, it's about Harry and Meghan, because she calls the shots. And we saw that at Sentebale, because Duchess Dr. Sophie Chandauka alleged that Harry's team had asked her to defend Meghan Markle from negative publicity. And this absolute rock star, Sophie, she said, I said, no, we're not setting a precedent by which we become an extension of the Sussex PR machine. Yikes! Isn't that fantastic? Harry's camp strongly disputed those claims, sparking an ugly war of words. But here's the thing. Sentebale is a smoking ruin of a charity and a public relations dumpster fire. Invictus is going that way too. Don't forget that Dominic Reid, OBE, stepped down as the Invictus chief executive just this year, right? And he was in post since 2017. Why has Dominic Reid stepped down? Why has he run for the hills? Just like JJ Chalmers. Why is it that they are departing? Because they are rats leaving the proverbial sinking ship. Invictus, right? When you open Invictus and when you're the patron and the face of the charity, when you walk on stage, you don't moan about Donald Trump and about division and the dangers of social media and all that CRAP. Because, Harry, don't talk to me about division. Don't talk to me about cruelty and about mental anguish and misery and all of that stuff. Don't talk to me about that when you, handed the most perfect privileged life, became so toxic and wrought such misery and damage on your own family, particularly Queen Elizabeth, who in her dying days had to worry about what might be in your forthcoming book, Spare, and the impact it might have on the family and the institution of the monarchy to which she devoted her life. When you host the opening ceremony of Invictus, you should walk out to cheers. And if it's William, he comes out and he goes, "This is such a great event. We've got these people who have transformed their lives. They've been fighting for freedom, fighting for Western values. They've been injured, but they rebuilt their bodies and they are back and they're here once again to win. And do you know something? They were heroes in the field of battles and they're heroes again today in the field of sporting endeavor." Whoa! There you go. I improvised a speech. Okay, do you know something? Do you know what? Do you know what? I'll do it. 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 Okay? I'll do it. I do make a right mess. The hardest part of the show is cleaning up the studio after I come off air. I will do it. Seriously, I'll look after Invictus. I can run the Mark Dolan show and do my broadcasting responsibilities and serve as Mrs. Dolan's husband and father to my two children, Elton and Bernie. That's not their real names, but I changed their names to protect their privacy, which is something that Harry and Meghan don't do because they put their kids on the internet every 10 minutes. So I would happily take over Invictus. And that was the speech. I come out and say, look, you were all heroes and you are heroes again. And you went into battle to win and you are winning again. And I salute you. And for the first time in the history of this great organization, Invictus is going to be about you, not the person on this stage, not the representative of this organization, not the figurehead. You are the figurehead. And all I'm here to do is provide you with a platform to big you up, to celebrate you and tell you that each and every one of you is a total extraordinary legend. And I thank you. And anyone that hasn't served in the military is not worthy your welcome. And then that's the speech. It's over. It's a very short speech, unlike the Mark Dolan show, which goes on a bit. Careful. And then what I would do, circle of life. And then at the end, I wouldn't sing. I don't want to empty the hall. I would then say, after that very short speech, I would say, and let the games commence. And that'd be it. And I would stride off stage and I would wear something very snow. I'd wear a white suit. I think a white suit is very striking. But it wouldn't be about me. And if William did it, it wouldn't be about him because Earthshot isn't about William. And William's campaign against homelessness is not about William. And Princess Catherine's focus on nature and the healing power of nature and the importance that children experience nature is not about her. This is issue-led. This is target-led and goal-led, which is why William and Catherine are quite right. They don't want to spend all day opening hospital wings. There's more to them than that. So this place, Invictus, is falling apart at the seams, okay? And old Dominic Reed steps aside. Why? Well, he's not happy, is he? He said, that's a great gig, Invictus chief executive. You do that for the rest of your career. But he's gone. He's out. He wanted out. Why? Because of, humpy dumpy dumpy dum, poor Prince Harry, world's least happy millionaire. Rob Owen is the successor. And of course, Rob Owen has stepped in to defend Harry, which is always a disaster. It's a bit like when a soccer team is in trouble, losing matches, and the board say we have full confidence in our manager. It means you're out. I'll do it. I'll do it. So Rob Owen, who I've got no doubt is a good guy, and poor bloke's going to have to deal with FaceTime calls with Prince Harry now for the next few years. He said, "We're proud to have the Duke of Sussex as the patron and founder. The Invictus movement stems from his ideas and his passion for the international community of wounded, injured, and sick service personnel and veterans, born out of his military service experience and his understanding of the power of sport to change lives and save lives." He added, "The spotlight he brings to the community and to our work has changed the perceptions of mental health, of military personnel, and of disability worldwide." Well, fair play to Rob Owen, who I've got no doubt is a decent guy and will do a good job. But I mean, that sounds like it's been written by Harry, doesn't it? Well, I say written by Harry. Harry's not a writer. He doesn't do sentences, but he'll have sketched out a couple of ideas in crayon, and then his people will have drummed up that statement. And Rob Owen sounds like it's that kind of hostage statement, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? He's got a hood over his face. There's a gun sort of just poised in the back of his head. And he's had to say, "We are proud to have the Duke of Sussex as the patron and founder. I promise you, we really like him. He's a really great guy and very clever and not toxic at all and hasn't impacted fundraising abilities and certainly hasn't made Invictus all about him. And it's certainly not the only thing that he's got left that gives him currency. No. Harry's great and he's not the world's least happy millionaire and he didn't win the womb lottery." I feel sorry for these folks, but I feel most sorry for the supporters of Invictus who have this completely useless figure at the front of it. Not just useless. He's counterproductive. He's hurting Invictus and he's got to go. Folks, we're out of time. Cannot wait to see you for the next video, which will be on Sunday. But what you need to do is hit the notification bell and the alarm bell and please subscribe because then you'll be alerted to surprise extra bonus videos. Love your work. And I can't wait to see you for the next video on Sunday. Bye for now. I'll do it.